Well, here on earth in Birmingham with me now is Salma Yaqoob, former leader of the Respect Party, who is now head of the Stop the War Coalition here in Birmingham, and Jahan Mahmood, a former government counter-extremism advisor. Salma, I'm wondering, take it from Paris, and then the vote in Parliament, and then, of course, the outcry from Mr. Trump. What sort of effect is that having on people here in Birmingham?
Well, it's a really testing time, a very frightening time, and a time where people are really scared to talk because it's a place now where things can be so easily misunderstood that people are frightened to talk about how they're feeling.
And what about the vote, for example, on Syria? Did that exacerbate things, or that just went by on the nod?
No, I think it made things worse. I mean, foreign policy has been a major player in the radicalization of young Muslims. And the Syria vote, what we don't understand and what we'd like an explanation from 10 Downing Street is that on 4 October 2015, the Prime Minister said that Russian bombs will further radicalize and increase terrorism. However, on the 25th of November, he's calling Jeremy Corbyn and other MPs who opposed the Syria strike terrorist sympathizers.
If I go down to the Halal Bush down the road, will they be drawing those inconsistencies to my attention?
Well, no. I mean, you know, across society you have people at different levels of thinking, so you can't say that. However, the hypocrisy is there to be seen, and any kind of recruiter could quite easily use that to exploit young people, and that's where the argument lies, is that the government is not consistent and doesn't follow up with its own ideals, but expects Muslims to fall into place with them. Simple.
Well, I think when it comes to foreign policy, it's not just Muslims who have an issue with it. You know, as citizens, many people have demonstrated against the war. In fact, the largest demonstration in British history was against the Iraq war. But what's happened is it has become an identity issue in the way the government talks about Muslims. And that's what's frightening, the them and us mentality, because it sows fear within the Muslim community, the irony being we are feared whilst we're very frightened ourselves. And of course, with people who don't know Muslims in their daily life, in their social interactions as neighbours, you know, just seeing this one-sided view, understandably causes a lot of fear and misunderstanding. And that, for me, is what's really worrying and really scary.
How do people in the Muslim community talk about ISIS? What place does it have in their lives?
Well, in most Muslims' life, they don't really play a role, except that they're being used to further corner Muslims and make them feel isolated and subjugated. It's almost like we have to apologize for the actions of ISIS, which has emerged out of the Iraq war, has nothing to do with us, has been funded by British allies like Saudi and Qatar, but Muslims have to apologize for something we have absolutely nothing to do with. And you know, it just makes us feel sick to the bone that people can use Islam and hijack it in our name. But for some reason, we're being questioned by the motives and the political aspirations of a group who are not in Britain. They're many miles away. Why? That's the question.
You're no Muslim, bruv. I mean, would you say that of ISIS?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the kind of nuances as who can say somebody belongs to a faith or not, but the sentiment of you don't speak for us, you don't act for us, and we totally reject you, yes, and that does capture what most people are feeling. And I think what was nice about that sentiment was that it was not only echoed within the Muslim community, but the wider community picked up on it, and you know, that's how it trended. And for me, that symbolises how there is far more that unites people than what divides, and how heartening that is, and how small things like that can have a huge impact.
Of course, Birmingham has seen this before, hasn't it? But with a different community. Just tell me what happened.
Yeah, well, we're in Birmingham right now. The Irish community, post the pub bombings by the IRA, they went through a similar feeling of being dehumanised, feeling demonised, that if you happen to be Irish, happen to have an Irish accent, you were automatically associated with terrorism. The Jewish community have been through this. You know, anti-Semitism is nothing new, but in Europe in the 1930s and 40s, it was of an extreme nature, and they were all stereotypes. So I say to Muslims, look, don't take it personally. It's geopolitics.
Is it true that this city wasn't able to stage a St. Patrick's Day parade for how long?
It was almost 30 years before the community felt confidence to come out. So showing how we can internalise that demonisation, feeling that you're the other, feeling that you're not trusted, that can really have a huge impact. And for me, that is a huge concern. But at the same time, what I'm optimistic about is that we should learn from that. And Birmingham itself has got huge resilience and positivity.
Well, just briefly, the Irish came back. Can the Muslim community come
It's
back?
actually interesting that someone said what she said. I grew up with the Irish community. I went to an Irish Catholic school. So I'm going through this for the second time, not the first time. And I believe that we can come out of it. And if anything that's come out of Trump and his stupid remarks is that more than 500,000 Brits signed that petition against him. That's a positive reaction by the British public. However, I'd like to see a similar reaction from the government now.